Hi, welcome back. You got me. This is Neil. It's week 5 of the course, and from weeks 5 to 8, this section we're looking at the Balanced Scorecard, and whether this is online or in a course, this is the first part of going through the Balanced Scorecard. We're actually introduced to you the components of the Balanced Scorecard. In the previous video, I gave some more information about the foundations of firm strategy. How do you find out what a firm strategy is? And it's by reference to the customer and the customer preference map. But now we want to look at the mechanics of the Balanced Scorecard. What are the components and how do they relate to one another? So let's get into the good stuff, shall we? So here is a nice diagram that I put together based on my understanding. It's not copied from a textbook, but there may be similar versions around, and I call this the food pyramid. And just a minute, let me grab my laser pointer here. Okay, here we're back. We've got the food pyramid. So what do we mean by the food pyramid? This is, the meat is at the top, right? And we've got the fruit and veggies at the bottom. We've got the milk and cheese. You know what I mean here. So for the goodness of your health, you need to have more of the bottom and less of the top. Well, let's go back to the focus of many activities in the organization, and especially if the organization is listed in a stock exchange somewhere around the world. Well, the focus generally every quarter is on the earnings. And so that puts a lot of pressure on this little part of that pyramid, the financials. And it tends to, in many organizations, drive everything that is financial driving downwards. It's very interesting, even past the customer. Yes. Interesting, right at the bottom is the capabilities of the organization in terms of the people, the systems, the culture. These are the capabilities that are capable of being developed and nurtured and focused. In the middle, we have internal business processes, which is basically the making of something or the process of delivering a service, the front office, the back office, the phone calling, the communications, the things that go on to make that service, to create that value for the customer. You're making a product, then it's the machines all lined up together. It is the third-party logistics before and after the actual processing, the bringing in of raw materials, the delivery of the product to another country. You got what I mean here. All right, then we have the customer, and that's the customer who buys your product or buys your service. So here are the facts. In most organizations, most attention is given to the financial, and partly the customer, okay? But least attention is given to the employees, the front office, the back office, or the processes. And the big point I want to make here is that, like the food pyramid, you've really got to focus on the bottom 2 layers, and not the top 2 layers. Why do I say that? Think about it. Which group do you have most control over? The bottom 2 or the top 2? Think about this. Who can you directly control? I cannot control the financial. Of course, I can do earnings management. I can manipulate the earnings. I can delay a dividend. I can delay purchase of machinery. I can stuff the sales channel, and we can make the financials all really, really nice. But that is not the point, is it? You're really not controlling the economic situation of the company. Financials represent the economic situation of the company. What about the customer? Yes, you can brainwash the customer, and that's what big businesses do all the time when they just advertise again and again and again. Like McDonald's, you know where McDonald's is, but they still advertise. You know where Burger King is, they still advertise, don't they? You know where Ford and Holden and Toyota, you know their cars, but they still advertise. All right, so why are they advertising? Because they just want to get their brand into your mind and try and brainwashing you. Okay, so that's indirectly, this is how a lot of companies control the customer. But we're talking about direct control. You do not have direct control over the customer. ultimately a customer makes a decision, not you, to buy your product or service. But you do have direct control over the internal business processes, and you do have direct control over the learning and growth of the people in the organization, the systems, the development of the culture in the organization. You have control over these two areas. You have direct control, but you do not have direct control over these two areas. And that is the big idea I want you to take away here. In the Balanced Scorecard, it is kind of like the causal nature goes from what you have direct control over to what you have less control over. In other words, from learning and growth to internal business processes to the customer to the financial. This is the cause and effect linkage of going from most direct control to the least control that you have in these parts of the organization. So that's the big takeaway with this pyramid. And let's get into these 4 parts of the Balanced Scorecard. The Balanced Scorecard is about balancing strategy and operations, measurement of financial and non-financial. So we know that the financials up the top, but non-financial kind of are in there to indicate what the customer is thinking, how the internal processes are going, and how the learning and growth is developing in the organization. And systems thinking, that is lead and lag indicators. In other words, the cause effect linkages between learning and growth and the processes that are undertaken, between the processes and the customer that buys the service or buys the product, and then the linkage between the customer purchases, their returns, their satisfaction, and economic performance of the company. So you can see that there's a cause effect linkage going on here. All right, so it's strategy, measurement, and systems thinking. And if you are caught in the elevator one day and someone asks you, what did O'Connor teach you in week 5 of the strategic management accounting course? And you say, I know what. We learned the Balanced Scorecard today. And someone said, oh, really? Wow, it must, in one lecture? How can you do that? I've heard people take a 2-day course on the Balanced Scorecard. How can you learn in just 1.5 hours? O'Connor has a special way of teaching us what the Balanced Scorecard is about. Oh, really? What is that? It's SMS. What are you talking about? You're not allowed to play on your phone in the classroom, are you? What is O'Connor doing in the classroom? So, no. SMS, we know, short message service on the phone, yeah, but we don't do that. SMS, strategy, measurement, and systems thinking. That is what the Balanced Scorecard is. I'm confused. Look, if you go to O'Connor's class, your confusion will be resolved in 10 minutes. Very easy. Strategy, it's all about what the company is focusing on, which type of customer, why the customer is buying the product from that company. Measurement, it's a collection of signals that the company uses to get feedback on the cause effect chain in the organization that starts with the capability of the employees, the processes, the customer, then the financial. And systems thinking, which is that cause effect linkage between different parts in the organization. There you have it. There's the Balanced Scorecard. Wow, I need to go to O'Connor's class. When is it? It's over now, but you can catch it on the YouTube video. Yeah, all right, there you go. All right, and so there's your end of your lift conversation. Suddenly you're at the bottom of the lift and you've basically told someone what the Balanced Scorecard is. There you go. That's it. Really? Yeah. So let's have a look how O'Connor puts it down. And this is what I teach you. Strategic objectives, measures, and systems thinking. That is SMS. Now you know that you're doing WhatsApp now, or Weibo and WeChat, and you're not using SMS directly, not as much as we used to 5 or 10 years ago. But that's a great way to remember. Strategy, measurement and systems thinking. That's all it is. And so what about goal? G-O-A-L. Well, basically, these are your benefits of using a balanced scorecard. You can increasingly get goal alignment because you have a system of measures in place where you can get people focusing on everything in the organization, like the whole strategic theme of the organization, because there are more measures for people to focus on rather than one overall, you must make this sales figure by the end of the month. And you can focus on little measures that are in between time. That is, you must ensure that the customer is totally satisfied for every time you serve the customer or every time you deliver a product to a customer. So you're breaking down this overall goal into lots of little goals through measurement. Yes, and so that helps goal alignment. It also helps on-time decision making because now with more measurement, you're getting more feedback about how things are going. You don't have to wait until the end of the month, the end of the quarter to find out, are we making profits? Are we going to go into bankruptcy? Yes, it happens. Don't laugh. All right. Or accurate decision making. Because we're making decisions on time, then decisions are more accurate. Or we are making decisions with less room for error, then they're going to be more accurate. And finally, learning. Over time, we are learning because now the signals keep on giving us feedback on what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and that adds to our experience. And then over time, we learn to be better at what we do well. So there you have it. This is the whole balanced scorecard. SMS goal. G-O-A-L. Yes, it's goal. And there you go. Balanced scorecard in 90 seconds. You time it. I better check the video. I think I took that long. Okay, let's try the next slide, shall we? All right, so what does the textbook say about balanced scorecard? Okay, so here are some writing. Okay, you just don't want O'Connor just dancing around like a football player, do you? All right, so we want to have features of a good balanced scorecard. Well, it's linking vision with strategy, helps managers manage the balance, all right, financial, non-financial, cause, effect, internal, external. I've already gone through this. Setting priorities, managing change. Look, organizations at any one time can have multiple strategies. Organizations at any one time may want to sell to multiple customers, but to be a very effective organization to sustain its business at the top of the pile, that is to be distinguished from its competitors, it might be better to focus on one strategy. It might be better to focus on one type of customer at any point in time. And so this is what we mean by setting priorities and managing change. Okay, if we want to change the strategy of the organization, then we can't just announce, oh, we've got a new strategy, we're focusing on these customers. Maybe you need to equip your employees at the back office and the front office with a new set of skills because now they have to engage with a new type of customer. Or they may have to engage with a new type of product or new product features. You can't just say, oh, we've got a new product. Employees, deal with it. No, you can't do that. You might need to do training. You might need to put in a new information system. You might need to create a new culture. So you see, so these are the benefits of the balanced scorecard, because the balanced scorecard each and any way can help in linking vision with strategy, helping managers manage the balance, setting priorities, and managing change. So is there any evidence of this out there that this goes on? Yeah, a little bit. Let's have a look, see what evidence there is out there. So we know my friend Reef Lawson and his colleagues, they wrote a book which summarized a huge survey around the world of businesses that were not using the balanced scorecard. And they came up with these following reasons for implementing scorecard systems. For example, tracking progress towards achievement of goals, needing to communicate, aligning employee behavior, linking and aligning the organization, being able to measure people. Interesting. Linking, aligning, measurement. Okay, you see the common themes being repeated here. What about features of a good balanced scorecard? Ability to measure performance, increased communication, organizational alignment. There you are. There you have these features coming out again. And what about reasons for implementing scorecard systems in terms of the top features? Ability to drill down to root causes, cause effect strategy map. You're going to learn about strategy maps here, and web-based reporting. So there are lots of specific features that the Balanced Scorecard enabled in the organization. And there we have in the final part, and I want to spend a little bit more time on later, the measurement. There are various measures at the financial perspective, the customer perspective, internal business process perspective, and the learning and growth perspective. Now, you can memorize these, but for now, they're just some examples, and we can go into some of these measures in a little bit more detail later in the video or in the next video. But for now, what I want you to take away is that there's evidence out there of the benefits and the type of benefits that organizations get from using the Balanced Scorecard. So let's go back to the textbook, shall we? The textbook. Oh, so boring. No, look, we've still got to look at the textbook, okay? Because O'Connor tends to waffle sometimes, so you've got to bring him back to the foundations of the textbook. Well, sometimes. Okay, let's have a look at chipset. This is page 501. I believe it's edition 15 of the Horngren chapter. With chipset, in the previous video, we visited chipset, and chipset had a low cost leadership strategy, and it prided itself on beating its competitors because it had a better price value ratio, and also it had better customer service than its competitor Visilog, which actually focused more on differentiation, customization, and having a faster chipset. So chipset had a certain strategy, and so from that we determined, from the customer preference map, its strategy. From that we determined the different focus of cost management techniques that chipset might undertake, like process value analysis, design analysis, functional analysis, those areas of value engineering that is consistent with its strategy. But now we want to try and formalize chipset strategy in terms of measurement. And so what you've got in front of you here is an actual scorecard of chipset, where chipset has some measures at the financial level, like grow operating income, increase shareholder value. At the customer level, increase market share, increase customer satisfaction. At the internal business process perspective, it's improving post-sales service. It's improving manufacturing quality, meeting specified delivery dates, improving processes, improving manufacturing capability. And learning and growth perspective, aligning employee and organizational goals, empowering the workforce, that is motivating the workforce, developing process skills, and enhancing information system capabilities. So you can see that these are kind of priorities that may drive the type of measures that we need at each of these four perspectives. So traditionally accounting just looked at this area, but now with the Balanced Scorecard we want to drill down to the areas where we have direct control over, especially the internal business process perspective and the learning and growth perspectives. And so what we might have here is initiatives that chipset may want to implement that is consistent with its strategy. So measures are set up to formalize these initiatives, to give signals as to whether an initiative is being undertaken or not. So for example, an initiative may be, we want to improve customer service process. So how do we know if we are improving? Well, we may need to measure service response time. Can you see that? So for now, think about some of these initiatives. Identify root causes of problems and improve quality. What's a good measure of that? Increase yield. Re-engineering order delivery process. So what is a good measure of that? Order delivery time. Interesting, that, isn't it? Notice that when we look at the process, the measures, a lot of them are time-based. or they are efficiency based. So we've got time here, we have efficiency, we have time here, we have time here, and now we have another number, a number of major improvements made, or percentage of processes with advanced control. So you can see that measures used here are to signal whether you are making progress on these initiatives. Now, the firm can choose to really formalize this and say, I want specific targets to be met on these measures. And so let's just stick with the internal business process perspective for a moment now. So chipset may say, well, service response time, what is the KPI? What is the target? The target is going to be within 4 hours. What is the yield? Well, we want 78%, because up until now we've been averaging 70%. So let's set 78%. We want some improvement here. We've got to have a target, right? And the target can help motivate people to do better. 30 days is the order delivery time. On-time delivery, 92%. Maybe in the past it was 80%. So now we want to stretch our target. It's another way of motivating people to aim for better. See, if you're a manager and you want to motivate employees and you say, look, we're going to start measuring delivery time. Well, okay, that's one thing, but wouldn't the employers would also like to know is, so what target do you have in mind? You with me? So it's always good to have a target to go with the measure. So you're communicating, you, the leader, your expectations for what you want followers, the employees, to do. So measures plus targets help to complete this motivation incentive framework. Of course, you may want to provide a bonus for meeting the target. That's another linkage there, but that is another conversation for another video, okay? But for now, we're just focusing in the Balanced Scorecard of focusing on having good measures that are really relevant to the initiative we want to put in place, but also having a target for the measure to help engender some motivation around the measure. This is important. And so now we can see chipset has actual performance, you see. So let's go through one of these just for example. The leader stands up and says, I want to improve customer service process. Yes. And we're going to measure service response time, and the target is within 4 hours. So after 1 month, we come back and say, wow, on average for this month, our service response time has been on average 3 hours. Wow, we have beat our target. Yay! That means we know we're doing better than what we expected. It's just like a budget. We have now come within budget, or sales have exceeded budget. That's what we're used to in accounting. Targets are budgets. But when we go to non-financial performance measures, that is below the financial perspective, customer, internal business process, or learning and growth, now all of these targets become non-financial performance budgets. And now we're comparing non-financial performance budgets with actual performance. And so there's we can compare a variance, that is, within 3 hours was actual, within 4 hours was budget. So we have exceeded our budget by 33%. Our yield is 79.3%. Our budget was 78%. We've exceeded our budget by 1.3%. But because this is a cost or an efficiency rating, we have improved our budget by 1.3%. We have improved our efficiency by more than 1.3%. You see what I mean here, okay? So order delivery time, we expected 30 days, and now it takes 30 days. So this is great. We have met our budget. On-time delivery, 92%, but only 90% of cases we met on-time delivery. 10% we failed, but we are 2% below budget. That is, we have poorly met this budget by 2%, okay, not 10%. You with me? So we're always comparing the actual with a budgeted number, but because it's non-financial performance measures, we tend to keep our reference to a particular target. We don't normally make reference to non-financial measures as a budget. With financial measures, we talk about budgets here. So there's the example of a balanced scorecard for chipset. And now we want to go to the next section. And in a more detailed way, and this is for class use, we can see that overall summary of the balanced scorecard spread across several slides. So here we have the customer perspective, the internal business process perspective, and the learning and growth perspective. So basically these slides here sort of expand on that one big slide I have shown and gone through with you earlier.